I cannot hear you. Um, I cannot hear you.
So what about now? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So hold on. Okay. So I'm sharing my. Okay. So I was talking that. Ah no, I can't do like this. Hold on, I'm hearing myself. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I said that I've taught you about what's it called? Um borders before, right? So now this H2 is in a border, right? So I've taught you about the short version. A border would always have a 1px or whatever. You can decide to make it 5px, whatever size you want it to be. You can make it 10px depending on how thick you want it to be. You can give it any size that you want it. Now this is 10px, okay, of course. So you also know that there are different type of borders, but for the most part you'll be using solid borders. But of course, you know that, where is it, you know that there are different style of borders. I mean, there is dotted border, there is solid, there is dashed, there is, you know, all of that. So if you decide that you want a different type of um border, you can use that. You also know you can use any color. You can use red, you can use black, you can use whatever. Red. Okay, so that is self-explanatory on its own. Now, when it comes to, I want you to see, when it comes to divs, right? When you I want you to see div as a container. Div is like a border. This is a div here, this is a div here. Okay? Div is just like, it's like a container. It's like this container, right? If I run this right now, you're not seeing anything here. All right. So div can be like a container. Now, if I give this div, now let's make the container obvious. Can you hear me, Finn?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's make the container obvious. Let's give it this div like this. Right now, I have put it in text. I have put it in text align center. I've moved it to the center, and I already moved the border. I mean, and I've added the border and everything before. So you see, div is just like every other element. But when you put something in a div, do you understand? You know, I can decide to put this. Let me make this one now a paragraph like this, right? This is a div, this is a div. Let me close it. I can now decide to make here a paragraph. Okay. So the difference is that this paragraph is inside the div. Hold on. Sorry, I made a mistake. Oh, it's not going anymore. Yeah. Okay. Let me do it again. So now this is a paragraph here, and I can decide that I want to give this paragraph a border. You know, there's a background color, there is a width. Okay, let me remove this width first. What's going on? Why is everything just catching? Let me remove this one. Remove padding and remove margin. Okay. All right. So now this is a paragraph, right? This is a paragraph. So it could be a H1, it could be a H2. Now div is like a container. Now let's put this paragraph into a container. Okay, I can decide to put it into a container like this. Sorry. Yes. And yes. Sorry, give me a moment. I can decide to put it into this container like this. Okay, so if I run this now, nothing will change. It's not because the element, the P is still the one that I have given a background to. But the difference is that I can have now with this P only this. If there's a H1 here, and I put the H1 like this, H1, and I said, and I call it borders. Let me put borders. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I close the H1. Do you understand what I'm teaching? Any question?
No.
Any question?
No.
Okay. So if I run this now, what will happen is that only the paragraph will have the border. Only that paragraph will have the border. But now if I want to put everything inside here, everything inside the div inside a container, all I need to do is to style the div. Okay, if I style the div, you can either style the div or you give it a class name. The reason why it's important to give it a class name is because if you check your own page now, you know that you have plenty of divs. So if you are styling the div like this, you see even the border will come inside. Everything inside that div will change. So it's always better to give it a class name. Say class name of, so that other it will not affect other divs inside your code. Give it a class. Class is equal to, we're going to give it a class called border. So div is just like a box that is enveloping everything inside one box, and then you can now style it. All right, so now I've given it a class name, so I'm going to use the class name and say border, because I don't, the person might have other divs there. You see, it's still the same border, right? So just know that you can decide to put an element by itself inside a box like this, or you can use a div to put everything together, or use a class. All of them are the same. All right, so you can always change. I mean, if I tell the border that I don't want, if I tell the browser that okay, I don't want this border to show. All right, if I remove it like this, the border won't show. Okay, you see, only the background color will be showing. Do you understand? But if you want to put it there, you can also put it there. But the good thing about it is that, let me put it there again, 5px solid, solid green. All right, so this is it. So now let's talk about margin. So now imagine that I had another div. Let me put another div like this. Okay, I'm going to put another div. This one I'm not going to give it a class name. It's just going to be a div. Okay, so now there are two. One is in a div, one is not in a div. Okay, so now let's assume that I want to style this one differently from what is here. I can decide that I want to give this border maybe a padding. Remember what padding does? Padding creates space inside. Now I want to put a space, just like we did our footer, because our footer is not close to the border like this. You want to put a space. So let's say we put 20px, and you put 20px here and you put 20px on top. Remember how I said that? Remember how I said that padding, when you see them writing the two of them like this, just know that this first one will be for the top and the bottom. This last one will be for the side. So that first one is going to be for up here and down here. Why this second one? Let me run it. You see now there is space on top, there is space below, there is space here, there is space here. If I change the one by the side to 40, there will be more space on both sides. You see, there's more space here and here, but the one on top and under will not change. Okay, but if you see that maybe they are writing it in full like this, you see 20px again, and then you see 40px. All right, so what that means is that this 20 is for up, this one is for the right, this one is for the bottom, this one is for the left. So it's going anti-clock, it's going clockwise. You know how if you are looking at the seconds on your time, it's always going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going round like this. All right, so that is how it is working. You can decide to write it full, or you can take the short part. So most times maybe you only want to, like, in your footer now, we don't, maybe you only want to put a border in one place. I can decide that okay, I only want border top, right? It is only the top that will show. I can say okay, I want border right. Okay, only the right will show. See, only here will show. So same goes for everything around. Okay, so I have talked about, for instance, now let me make this the border. Okay, so let me put the border back, right? Very good. So I have put a padding there. Now let's talk about margin. Maybe I want to put a space on top. Maybe there is, let me put another div on top again. Let me put another div on top. Now I've put another div on top. So you see, there's another div on top. Now let's assume that I want to put a space between this div that is on top and this one that is below. Okay, so very simple. I'll just target my board where I have this border and I'll say margin. I want to give a margin top of 50px, right? If I say I want to give a margin top of 50px, watch what happens. See, there is space on top. If I say I want to give a margin bottom of 50px, right? If I do it like this, you see the space will be under. So now we want to give it a margin bottom, both of them, the top and the bottom. All right, and you don't want to write it one by one. If I put margin like this, the problem is that this place too there will be 50px. So instead, you can either decide, like just like the way padding, the first one will be for the up and the bottom, the second one will be for the sides. And are you understanding me?
Yes.
Are you understanding me?
Yeah.
Okay. If you have question, answer. Sorry, hold on. Anyway, don't worry. So it's just like this. It's just the same thing for the margin. The only difference is that, sorry, my laptop is touching. The only difference is that padding is the one that is inside, margin is outside. So for this one, you either write 0 or you write auto. It's the same thing. You either write 0 or you can write auto. So when you write auto, that just tells the browser that, okay, oh, for the side, just put whatever makes sense. The browser will look at it by itself and say, okay, let's just do what makes sense. If there is need to put a space here, the browser will put, so the browser can see that there is no need. So this is how you put it. Now there is a margin on top and below. So it's small small things that you need to remember. Now if I remove this border now, you can use it to be structuring your page. Now if I remove this border now and I say, okay, let me remove it. Yeah, if I run the code, you see the border is not there, but the styling is there. The margin will still be there. The padding will still be there. If I remove this background color here, you see, every other thing will stay. The styling will still stay. So it's just like you are designing things in boxes. That is what you should always remember. All right. Is there anything I want to jog your memory on? Let me jog your memory on grid. Okay, we don't have time for grid, but so far so good. If you can remember all this, you'll be fine. Do you have any questions? Because this is the end of our. Okay, I have time. Hold on, I can still do grid. Let me quickly go through grid. If you want to, when you want to build things side by side. Hold on, sorry. Okay. Okay. Maybe you want to build something side by side. I've taught you about grid before, but let me just jog your memory. Okay. Let me make it a 3 grid thing. All right. Yeah. So this is it. So of course, as usual, you must have a grid container. If you see it here now, this has a grid container and it has the individual grid items 1, 2, and 3. All right. And I've told you that the reason why we're giving each of them class is that you might want to style what is inside here different from what is here. Okay, like in our own now, the left grid, or yeah, the left grid in our own, consists of a text. The right grid has a picture. Do you understand? So sometimes you might have to give it different class just in case you have to style it. All right, so you must have a grid container, and you can see the closing div. So in that grid container, you must make sure that you tell the browser to display its grid, so that the browser will know that, okay, oh, it should be in grid form. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. So I also thought about grid temperate columns. Now these are columns. This is 1 column, 2 column. This is 3 column. So I told you before that you can either use this auto, or you can use fraction, one fr, one fr, which is way better, one fr. So now the browser understands that, okay, each of them will have one fr. They will be equal. All right. If I run this, you see it's still the same. But let's assume I give the middle one 2 fr, right? If I run it, you can see the middle is bigger because the middle is taking two fractions, two portions, while this side is taking. If I give this third one 3 fraction, okay, so now you see this one is smaller, this one is bigger, this one is the biggest because it is 1, 2, 3 fractions. Do you get? So you can also give your individual grid a background color. Let's say I give this, let's say I give this a background color of uh sky blue. It's almost the same color there. You see, oh, okay, this is for the grid container. Okay, so that is for the one that is surrounding it like this. Let's make that one red. It's for the but most times when you are doing grids for to put something like in your own now, you can see we did not put any background color around it because we did not need it. It's just plain. But I'm just showing you that it can be done. And of course there is a padding. Remember that I told you that padding is inside. If I increase the padding of this one to 20, it will have bigger C. See the padding inside this big, but this is for the grid um container. And for the most part, you might not need this. You might not need background color. You might not need the padding because you might not need. So if I do this like this, see, it's just normal because for the most part that's how you do it. Now for the grid items themselves, they can have a background color. I can decide to make this a background color of red. Hmm? So why it's important to give it individual styles? Let's assume that I this number one now is red and I want this number two to be pink. All I have to do is to select the class. Maybe I give this one a different class of grid item two, and then I style it. Do you understand? So if I want to give, if all of them, all these grid items are going to take one styling, you can see everything here has a class of grid items. So all of them are going to take one styling. If I want to add a different styling, I have to give it another class. Let's assume I give this one grid item 2. Are you understanding?
Yes.
Finish.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
Okay. So let's assume I give this one. You see, if you want to give it another, because one element can have two classes. So let's assume I want to give it another class. All I need to do is that I'll now say grid item 2. You select it, grid item 2, and then I give it a different style. I say I want the background to be yellow, background color yellow. Or let's say blue. All right, and I run it. You see, it's the only one that will change. The rest will still follow this one. Okay, so we've done the padding, font size, how big you want it to be, text align. You can say text align left, everything will shift to the left here. You can say text align right, it will shift to the right. If I give it left here now, left, it will shift like that to the left. You see, it will shift like that to the left. But most times you'll be doing the center. Okay, so let's assume that you have this now and you want to make this, let's make it one fr back, one fr. Like in your case now, what we just did with the grid was that we gave it one fr. It was equal. You get, so maybe you don't put a border. you want to remove all these lines because you didn't put a border in your own. If I remove that border and I run it, you see the border is gone. You really can, you just know that something is separating it. So let's remove this background color. I'll remove this background color and I run it again. You see, it's just going to be your text that is there. So you can style it however you want to. It is up to you. If you can remember all these fundamentals I just mentioned, you'll be fine. So do you have any questions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're done for the day. You can also show your parents what you have achieved in this class. Okay. All right. I don't have any assignments for you because this is our last class. Except that make sure you change your footer to the one that is it should just be like the one in the contact page. All right, no problem. Mm? Enjoy your Sunday. All right.